Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's open forum. This is our second open forum of the year. We're excited to have you here. Last week, we covered some things, some forums that were new, and they sprung us on them. They emailed us at early in the morning on January 5th and said these start at 9 a.m. So if you have deals going, there's been some discussion of this, had a lot of questions. If you have deals going and they're already using the old forms, there weren't big changes on the new forms, and anything that you pull off of Form Simplicity or Transaction Desk. I know some of you use Dot Loop. Those should have been replaced by now too. You might want to check. They weren't huge things. What happened is we have a couple of required documents, mostly just for condos. That has been a change, but they are required. And as you guys know, the forms we added last year, not we added, the powers that be added for the flood and all that kind of stuff, those have been required. I know Jeanette's been hassling you guys for those because they are required and those are new. And it seems like in our litigious society where everybody wants to sue everybody, there's more and more forms all the time, disclosures and forms and everything else. And, you know, some of the lawsuits are for good reason, but I guess a lot of people with the hurricanes that came in and flooded everything on the coasts, we are victims to that here, having to do things in obviously a lot of non-flood type areas. You know, did we get FEMA help and stuff like that, which was not the case here. So that was for a lot of storm surge stuff. So those forms are required, and now the condo forms are required. So we will be enforcing that as well. So don't worry too much about the forms, except for the condo forms, which are newly required. And that is, of course, because of that tragedy that when the condo that collapsed down in Miami Beach. So those forms are required now. The new forms, there's just been a few changes, like I'm going to show you guys when we do the listing agreement. And I think in the buyer brokerage agreement, they added that, you know, that you have to be careful. People have recording devices in their homes and stuff. That was probably a lawsuit as well. That they said, you know what, let's just add something to the form to put that on the buyers and on the agents to let them know. Now, if you had any sense before, when you have a listing that has cameras, you were letting the showing agents know, you know, like there's cameras here. And if you were a buyer's agent, you would look for cameras as to not give away anything, like, you know, your client saying, oh, this is the most beautiful house I've ever seen, I'll pay anything for it. Or what a terrible house, you know, so you don't want any of those things going. The second one doesn't hurt you as much because you're not going to buy it anyway, but the first one would hurt your client. So I shared the YouTube link in the chat. You can get that. I'm going to be sending that out by a separate email anyway to you guys, just for update reminder. I don't like to send you guys a lot of emails. I don't want to end up in people's spam folders and stuff like that for sending too many emails. So I try to not send a lot of emails. I try to just send you stuff that's very important or relevant, or sometimes just to cover our butts, like the when I tell you guys not to manage property without going through the brokerage. And I want to be clear about that. Do not manage property without going through the brokerage. We've had some cases of that before, and a lot of people get away with it for a long time until somebody's rent goes missing, and then they want to talk to, you know, the landlord and the DBPR and everything else, and that's when we find out you guys have been doing it, and we break all association with you immediately, because we cannot have nobody can do that. You cannot manage property. You can't do any real estate transaction that makes you money without going through your broker. That being said, I always get this question. Yes, if it's your own property, you can manage it all you want. If it is, you're doing it for free, you can do that all you want. So feel free to do that. But, you know, some of you guys have had legitimate things where I sell this guy properties all the time, so I just go and take care of his properties for him, you know, whatever. Do not handle rent money. I'm just telling you that's a bad idea to handle rent money, especially cash, but any rent money whatsoever. Because if something goes missing, gets wired to the wrong place or Zelled to the wrong place or anything, you're going to be held liable as a licensee. Okay, and you're not in that business anyway. So even if you're acting through the brokerage, which you guys do sometimes, you have to go through all of our proper procedures and protocols and everything else. And there's training involved, and there's ongoing training involved. And it's really, people ask me all the time, should I start managing? Not unless you have, you know, 10, 20, 30 properties to manage. Then it gets to be worthwhile. It's economy of scale thing, because otherwise it's too much work for too little money. But that's just my opinion. You guys can do whatever you want, but you have to go through the FRI channels to do that, and you would have to go through any brokerages channels to do that. Okay, let's get started on what we came to talk about. First of all, let's talk about the market. Brian just shared that he was looking at properties for, I guess, for himself. He's relocating, and everything he looks at, he saves it, and it goes pending quickly now. We have noticed a lot of that. I'm going to share a little bit here, but it's not going to tell you a whole lot, due to the fact that we just came out of the holidays, the pendings and closings and stuff like that. Pendings are way up. Closings are not huge because this work would have had to been, you guys know, 30 days ago, there wasn't a whole lot going on because of the holidays. So closings aren't super high, but they're not bad. They're better than they were in December. And rates have been dropping. All the rates. Let me go look at. I'll pull it up. I'll show you guys. I'm going to share my screen here, and this is from our good buddy Paul, the lender, and he sends us out daily. I don't know if you guys get his daily temp report. This is from yesterday, and all of them were down pretty much. Actually, the one, well, that's a negative thing to do. It was dead even. It went. It shows that it went up, but the rest of them are all down. The day before, they were all 6 down, but you look at them, they're in the 5s now. Everything's in the 5s except for the jumbos. And even that one, I talked to Paul yesterday, even that one he can get at 6 for most people. If they're buying a jumbo, they typically have pretty good credit and pretty good stuff going on. But this is a national average. But look at the 15-year conforming. You get you right at 5 probably a lot of times. But the FHA, even this is the first time the 30-year conforming has been under in any time I can remember the last couple of years. So rates are coming down. They're well into the 5s, and things are looking up. Now, we're still going to struggle. There's still people out there, like most of us in this chat, probably with 3.25%, 3%. Some of you with 2.875 interest rates on the house that you have. And these rates do not look attractive to you to just move across town. Now, if you had to move because of a job or a death or a this or that life event, you're still going to do it, but not if you just want to downsize or upsize or move to a little bit better school district or whatever. A lot of people aren't making that call. So along with the insurance and taxes and stuff like that. That's what's going on. The taxes aren't as big of an issue, but the insurance has gone up where they are. Of course, it's gone up at the house they live in now. So that's what's going on. The market is picking up, undoubtedly picking up. Like it's clear to the eye that it's picking up. You guys have picked up on that. What else are you guys seeing out there? Anybody? Anybody seeing anything out there? You guys aren't seeing anything. Okay. All right. It's okay. You can disagree with me too. Perfectly fine. All right, we'll move on then. You guys don't care about the market. We will start on something else. Let's do this one. So let's talk about the listing agreement. This is the one, guys, I still see you guys, and I know not all of you are, not everybody is in this chat right now. There's 55 people in here, and we have 1,000 agents. So what I want you guys using is this form right here. Always use the TB forms. It's just so much easier. You guys have found this out the hard way before. Just use the TB forms. So single agents have different fiduciary obligations than transaction brokers. You still have to deal honestly and fairly. You still have to follow all the laws, everything else as a transaction broker. You do not have as deep fiduciary, or you don't have any fiduciary responsibilities like you do as a single agent. But a single agent has to transition to a transaction broker if they also represent the buyer, or if our brokerage, because you're working as a brokerage, if our brokerage also represents the buyer. So just do the transaction broker form first, so you don't have to transition to transaction broker. That is a conversation that is best that you don't have to have. And what that says, what you have to do is sit down with somebody and tell them, hopefully you sit down and tell them, or you speak to them about it. Don't just send them the form. You tell them, I'm not your fiduciary anymore. I know these things about you and that you're desperate to sell and you're this and you're that, but I'm not supposed to tell anybody that now. They'd rather just not have that conversation to start with. And you're better off not having that conversation to start with. You will tell them as a transaction broker, I'm also representing the buyer. But you will not have to tell them, go into details about any of that kind of stuff. Just do this because this form never claimed that you would do that. Let's do standalone form. I just want to show you guys to pick that one of all those. Always pick the TB form, that's transaction broker form. So I'm not going to go through all of this bit by bit. If you would like to, I have recorded ones about that. This stuff is pretty easy anyway. Just keep in mind this stuff you put up here, when you're going to do, just click them as many as they say that they will do. Or if they don't, if you haven't educated them all this, maybe you don't, it's just a listing you picked up over the phone or something like that, then you should have these conversations with them and explain to them what VA and FHA means, or you're going to have to do that when you get offers. But it's better just to do it now and say, because if you say you're going to take VA and FHA, then you are obligated to take VA, or they are obligated to take VA and FHA. A good agent will educate them on all those things and let them know, look, we're going to get offers. It also makes them feel good to tell them this. We're going to get offers, and some of them are going to be this and this. With the price range that your home is in, we are going to get a lot of VA and FHA offers, or price range your home, and then we're going to get a lot of jumbo people, and they're not going to do a lot of VA and FHA, right? But maybe we'll leave it open to that. So price, terms, all that stuff. The agreement here, look, I know you're buddy with the seller, but the agreement here is between the brokerage and the seller. It protects the brokerage, thereby protecting you against anything, any kind of crazy seller activity. A seller that changes their mind, a seller tells you they'll take, $500,000 cash and conventional, and they get a $500,000 cash offer and they won't take it because they changed their mind about selling, all that stuff. Well, guess what? If you bring them the property that you owe, if you bring them the offer that they chose here, they owe you a commission. Okay. That's why it goes into great detail about all these things, about what they'll do, because they have to say, oh no, I don't want that. I wanted an earlier closing. I won't take that because I wanted them to close in 5 days. Well, that's not on here, and that's not one of these forms. That's not one of these criteria. So you're still owed a commission. So if you have a situation like that, call me. We'll talk about it. I'll probably send you to an attorney if you have any case at all. If you're completely wrong, I'll just tell you you're completely wrong. But if you have any case at all, I'll send you to an attorney, because if you need one. Sometimes the seller will just say, hey, will you take, $5,000 for your time, and that'd probably be worth it, or whatever it is. So, sellers can, and we've had this a lot too, and I'm going off topic here. I've had some sellers back out lately, which has been unusual, but like in the last 2 weeks, there's been like 3 of you guys have called me with a seller wanting to back out of a deal for whatever reason, all different reasons. And no, they can't back out of a deal. They can buy their way out. But at this point, think of all the things that a buyer does. A buyer is going to, well, first of all, they're going to stop looking. They probably have to move somewhere, and they're going to stop looking once they put a house under contract. I mean, these sellers, one of them wanted to back out because they found out they had a prepayment penalty at the last minute. They found that out when they called for when the title company called for the payoff. And there's been different issues, but so by the time the title company is locking down the payoff, which they don't do till the last minute because they don't want to do it too early because it's not an accurate number. So they wait till the end, right? And they call for the payoff. So it's, maybe it's 3, 4, 5 days before closing. The buyer's been under contract for 30 to 40 days, and they've stopped looking. They've called the movers. They've got everything set up. They've probably got their utilities scheduled to be shut off. They've got everything going on. They have they've paid for an inspection. They paid for an appraisal. They've paid for this, that. They may have locked in a rate they paid for, etc. At this point, they have thousands of dollars that they've spent. You think your seller can just walk away, breach the contract and walk away unscathed? Absolutely not. So, but what they can do is, if this So this prepayment penalty was if he sells it in the first 5 years, or refinance in the first 5 years, which is why he got a better rate at some point. I don't know if you guys know that, but if you agree to a prepayment penalty, you get a better rate because the lender wants to know they're going to get that rate beyond 5 years. Lenders don't like it when you get a loan and you at 6.5% a couple of years ago, and you refinance 18 months later. They don't like that, so they want to hold your note for a while, and so they charge you a prepayment penalty if you move it, if you sell it or refinance it. So this guy gets down to the last minute and he wants to do this. Of course, this buyer's got real damages, not to mention whatever else they're going to put on there, and this seller wants to fight it in court. Now they're going to have legal fees. They're going to have this that the losing party is going to have to pay, and it's a clear breach. It's the seller's fault. So the agent called me, and I honestly don't remember the agent, so I don't know if she's in here or not. I remember it was a lady. I don't remember if she's in here or not. I don't know if she's in here or not. But the agent called me and said, "Am I responsible for this?" And I said, "Absolutely not. No, the seller needs to know that. You don't call their lender. That's not part of your broker responsibilities on this form that you agreed to call their lender." And this is a form that all of that is a roundabout way to tell you that's not one of your broker responsibilities. And this is a serious thing so our agent is owed a commission also. So the seller also owes any commission they agree to on here. So, or on the contract. So they owe the buyer's agent and they owe the listing agent. They owe whatever 5-6% that they agree to. So there you go. Tammy, you have a question?
How much was the prepayment penalty going to be? Do you know? Because it's a math problem.
I want to say 7%. I want to say 7%.
Well, by the
and
time
I don't know
what
7% of what. I don't know. I don't know what they owed. Tammy, I got a lot of problems of my own, and I get you guys problems. I don't remember everything, but
yeah.
It was. I want to say it was 7%.
Yeah.
So if he owed $500,000, that's 35 grand. You can see why he would say, "Well, let's take it off the market for a year and a half or however long till 5 years." I don't know how close he was to 5 years either. But I remember the 5-year thing. I want to say it was 7%. So he would owe, if it's 500,000 that he owes, it would be 35,000. So I don't know how much he owed. I don't know any of the details, but it was something like that. Which makes buying out of this thing for 10 grand great. I mean, not great, terrible, but better than going through with it. So he was going to go talk. Last I heard, he was going to go talk to an attorney. I don't know what happened after that. But he may or may not have closed it. It depends on the money, I'm sure. I had another one, but wanted to back out. One of you guys had one that wanted to back out for no good reason whatsoever. And he was going to go talk to his attorney too. And see what I told that agent, just go ahead and prepare for closing, because his attorney's going to tell him, you got to buy your way out of this. And he did not have, it wasn't a prepayment. That was something else. That was just something, didn't feel like it, changed his mind. But it depends also on what the buyer wants. So some buyers will walk away for practically nothing. And some of them will, someone might've been having cold feet anyway, who knows? So let's talk about this. If there's no more questions on that, sorry, I got off topic there a little bit. Compensation. This is what I did want to cover. I covered it last week. I'm going to do it real quickly, guys. Still preferred is to put the 6% here, 5% here. It is not preferred to do the 2.5 or 3. This is in here to show you guys. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah. Well, you can't see that. I have a pull down menu here. So 5%, 6%, 2.5%. That's so if the seller doesn't want to pay, says I don't want to pay, or I want to negotiate it with the sale, then you have to do the 3 or 2.5 here, or whatever your part is going to be. And then you come down here, and it is best if they're going to say, "Oh, I'll pay you 2.5, and I'll pay the other party 2.5." It's better to just do 5 and then 2.5, right? And you do the 2.5 right here. This is where you do the 2.5, right? And you would click this button over here. Okay. That's a regular 5, 2.5, 6, 3, whatever it's going to be. That is the ideal. That's what we used to do all the time back before the changes. And that was fantastic. It was a beautiful system and all that stuff. But lawyers got involved, and now we have a lawsuit. settlement. So here we go. If you're going to do the 2.5 there, you're better off saying no compensation will be offered. I don't like the way it's done here. It should say seller will there should be maybe another, they should get rid of this, the B, and put seller would like to negotiate with the offer, right? And then put, or C, no compensation will be offered to buyer's broker. Well, that's an easy thing to say for a seller until you get an offer, full price offer with a 2.5, 3% ask from the buyer's agent. And it's part of the contract, and they try to negotiate it and they say, no, I'm not paying any. Okay, well then the offer's off the table because my buyer's got to pay it, or we'll offer you 3% less and the buyer will pay me. But why is that worse? Because the buyer can't finance that. The buyer has come out of pocket for that. The lender's not going to finance that typically. Carolina, you have a question?
I had something similar to this last closing I had. The seller wanted to pay me 5.5%, 5.5%. I believe it was 5%. But then the agent who submitted an offer would not take anything less than 3%. So I had to go back to the seller and say, hey, I know that you want me to get paid the 5%. However, to make this deal work, they're requesting seller compensation. Would you agree to change our agreement? So what I did was I changed the agreement. I modified the listing agreement to show that the seller was going to pay me 2.5 and the agent 3%. So I did that. Plus I did another addendum, and I don't know if this is what we're talking about, but I think it is. And then I submitted another document to show that she agreed to pay me a certain amount and the buyer's agent a certain amount. Originally, she didn't want to pay a buyer's agent. So my question is, if you do a contract like this and it says no compensation to a buyer agent, and then we get an offer, what is the addendum that needs to be signed? The modification to listing agreement and also a compensation agreement to the other side?
All you needed on that was a modification to the listing agreement, which you did perfectly. And then the compensation agreement. There is no addendum. The buyer, an addendum to the contract between the buyer and the seller. That didn't have anything to do with the buyer. That was between you and the seller, and then it was between our brokerage and their brokerage.
Correct. So I did that. Okay, perfect.
So all you needed was a compensation form.
Yeah. Okay.
And the modification. So you did the modification. You did everything beautifully.
Okay.
But I'm going to go over the compensation form because that was one big change from last week. If you missed last week's, the compensation form,
I did.
We're going to take them off of here, by the way, because we have too many of them now, and they're outdated. People are still using them, and they're perfectly still legal. The old ones are still legal. They just tried to make it easier for you so you wouldn't have to go back and forth with the thing. This is not the ones on our website. On our paperless pipeline, you can still use the compensation agreements. Perfectly fine. You can still use the exclusive right of sale. You can still use all of those. They didn't change they didn't add the change to this listing agreement on this one because it already was the transaction broker one. They changed the exclusive brokerage listing agreement, but we don't use that. You want to use exclusive right of sale. That's what I always tell you guys to use, and as transaction broker. So I'm going to go to a different form here.
For rentals and for sales, correct?
Exclusive right of lease and exclusive right of sale. Yep.
Okay.
Always as transaction broker, because especially with rentals, you're most likely to get the renter too. That's much more often on rentals than sales. You get both sides. Well, not that there are both sides typically on leases, but you don't have to pay the whatever lease fee or referral fee you wanted to do or you didn't want to do. Let's do compensation. So buyer's broker compensation, contingency addendum. The GG form is, I don't know if they still have that, is awful. Not necessary. I don't want you guys using that GG form. Get it done. You don't want, the reason I don't want you using that GG form, which a lot of brokers, a lot of agents I've for some reason been trained to do is because it says, okay, we have an agreement, but we're going to agree to commission later. Well, you don't want to blow up a deal because two agents can't agree on commission, because like Carolina's deal, what if her seller said no when she went back to modify it? Her seller said, no, I absolutely will not pay more than 5%. Carolina's going to have to eat it or lose the deal, right? She can't, you don't want to lose a deal for your seller after you're not getting 5 stars for that, right? So you don't want to go through that. You want to make it where you can, where the deal is already agreed to before you do that. Sellers or seller's broker to buyer's broker compensation. So this is a new form. There used to be 2. You guys used to call me and say, hey, this listing agent, I can barely get a hold of her, and she told me to send her the compensation, send it over. I don't know which one to use. How do I know if the seller, you don't have any way to know what was on that form, what was on her listing agreement. So you'd have to get a hold of her and ask her, which one am I supposed to use? Well, now you just do one. You can do this now as the buyer's agent, because listing agents are too lazy to do it with each listing and just have it ready to go. So seller's broker, the seller's broker, you can put Rook Realty, buyer's broker, Florida Realty Investments, right? Property address, whatever you want, whatever it is, the address, all that as the property. If seller is checked above, you don't know which one to do. They have to do that. All right. Buyer's name, the buyer's name. You'll fill all this in. The term, you put it, just put 15. Doesn't matter. It says 15 if you leave it blank. It doesn't matter. You've got a buyer. You're pretty much submitting an offer at this point. You're not just showing the house. Let's go for 3%. Okay. Don't put plus here. If your buyer's agent, if your buyer owes you something, just don't put plus here, because what you're doing is saying they're going to pay you 3% plus whatever else here. Some of you guys, they say, oh, I want, 295 MLS fee, which is not a real thing, or a 495, transaction fee for my broker. They want you to pay that out of the 3% or whatever. Remember how they used to say 3% minus 495 in the MLS? That's not where this goes. This means this is what they're paying you. So they're paying you more. I doubt you're going to get the seller or seller's broker to pay your transaction fee to FRI, or just pocket money or whatever you want them to do. But just do the 3% there. All right. You don't have to do the arbitration thing, but a lot of people will say, oh, you didn't fill out all the stuff on the form. It's okay if you do. That's only if things go sideways, and that's arbitration you're agreeing to instead of a real lawsuit. The problem with that, the reason we don't like that, is for your protection, for your money, because typically if you go to arbitration, you don't get if you get if somebody frivolously claims something against you and you go to arbitration, they don't have to pay your attorney fees. You have to protect yourself and pay for an attorney or whatever to go to arbitration or represent yourself, which is not the best idea, because you don't get reimbursed if somebody frivolously goes after money from you and they're completely wrong, which, as you guys know, some sellers, buyers will do. There's lots of crazy people out there that don't understand real estate or business in general, and they will accuse you of something and think that they can get money from you and threaten to sue you and all that kind of stuff. But what you do in that case, they'll go talk to an attorney, and the attorney will say, well, it's going to be this much fees, and if we don't win, you don't have a good case, and if we don't win, you have to pay their attorney fees too. And they'll say, oh, never mind. That's happened so many times with you guys. You guys have done this. I can't tell you how many phone calls I've gotten over the last, about to be 11 years. Next week will be 11 years I've been here. Over the last 11 years, I've gotten so many phone calls from you guys saying, oh, I think they threatened to, my seller or buyer threatened to go to an attorney. And I'm like, they don't have a case the attorney's going to tell. And I never hear back from them. So that happens a lot. People go to attorneys and attorneys say, we don't have a case and you're going to have to pay their legal fees. So thank you for the $500 for this consultation, but you don't have a case. So Michelle, you have a question?
Well, to have 2 of them. On this form, if I don't sign at the bottom, you see where it says that the seller or the associate signs?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to sign that, or does the seller sign it?
Great question. And we talked about this last week. This is the first thing that Carissa and I saw on this. Well, Carissa saw it. Is it doesn't tell you what, if it's the seller, if the seller is paying the commission, which is, what would you guys say, 10% of the time maybe that the seller decides to do it, then the seller signs. If the agent is, if the brokerage is paying, then you sign. Don't send it to me and Carissa. either. Just sign your form. We can't do this for every one of you guys' deals. Just sign it, and that's it.
So if I don't sign it,
If it's the seller paying it, then the seller signs it. If the broker's paying it, then you sign.
so if the broker's not signing it, we shouldn't sign it.
Who
Is
broker?
that what you're saying?
What broker? No,
You.
you sign it. You sign it for the broker. If you're
No.
the listing agent, you'll sign here if the broker is paying the commission. If you did a regular agreement like I just showed you with the 6 and the 3 or the 5 and the 2.5, then you sign here.
Okay, got it.
If
Got it.
if the seller said I'm not paying a commission, then and we'll negotiate it on the offer, and then they said they put on the contract seller will pay 3% to buyer's agent, and seller agreed to whatever number they agreed to up here. If they did that, then the seller signs here. If it was negotiated in the contract only, if you're paying by the listing agreement, you sign. If you're paying on the contract only because the seller said they didn't want to pay, then the seller signs.
Okay. And second question, I'm on the listing agreement, item number 11, the brokerage relationship.
Mm-hmm.
It describes that the broker will act as transaction broker. Now, if it says it in the listing agreement, why do we need another form to substantiate the same relationship?
We don't. That's why I said you don't have to. If you use a transaction broker form, you don't have to transition to transaction broker. That's the beauty of the transaction broker form, is that you don't have to transition.
There's a brokerage relationship form. And do we not need to deal with that?
Well, first of all, in Florida, you're assumed to be a transaction broker
Correct.
unless they've signed single agent paperwork. No, you don't need a brokerage relationship form.
Okay, because I saw that as part of the forms and I thought that was redundant.
Well, a lot of the forms you don't use, and a lot of them you don't use one with the other, et cetera. You just use one or the other, a lot of them.
Okay.
So you never have to transition. You never have to state your relationship. It's on the form, and you're assumed to be a transaction broker in Florida.
Okay.
All right. Carolina.
It's relating to the same question that Michelle just asked. So I missed last week. So this form that you're presenting, that was presented last week, is this in addition to the listing agreement that we agreed to, and or it has to be submitted? I think I heard you say this has to be submitted regardless, and or what I'm experiencing is that the buyer's agent submits this form and wants the seller to pay, not the broker or something like that. I don't understand why, but to kind of not have the broker pay the commission, it's seller to buyer's agent compensation. So I'm just a little confused as to why so many forms and why do we need to do this now?
Oh, this has been since the thing. This is replacing the other seller broker to buyer broker or seller to buyer broker forms. This is making it less. This is replacing those. This is making it less forms.
Okay. Because so it could be that seller's paying the compensation and or the broker paying the compensation.
Well, that's on every deal. So somebody's paying it, right? On every deal.
Yeah.
Or they're not offering anything, and you have to fight for it on your contract. So,
okay.
But going back to the listing agreement, that's why I like to do, sell the seller on the 6 and 3 or 5.5 or 5 2.5, whatever it is, makes it much cleaner. And then the best part of that, talking them into that, is if you get the buyer, you also get paid without having to go back to the seller and say, look, I know you didn't agree to pay any buyer's compensation, but I'm representing the buyer. And this is a really tough, talk about a tough conversation to have. I'm representing the buyer now also. So not only am I not fiduciary to you, I'm also representing the buyer, and I'd like to get paid for it. I know you said you didn't want to pay anybody for it, but do you mind paying me more for having less of your interest in mind? That's a bad situation.
Okay.
So that's one of my least favorite parts about this whole thing. And that's a conversation I would never want to have.
So you mentioned that this has to be submitted to the paperless pipeline or with a contract. I'm just not.
Oh no, this is of course it comes to paperless pipeline. We have to have it, but it goes hopefully before the contract. You send this before the contract, or not with the contract.
Okay.
But if you don't have it signed before the contract, you can send it with the contract, but also put it in the contract, put it in the additional terms.
Ah,
That,
okay.
put that seller will pay it. And if the buyer's broker may call you back and say, well, we're paying it, we're paying it by listing agreement through okay, fine. I don't care. Just make sure it gets paid.
Okay.
Mark through it if you want, as long as I have that compensation agreement. It doesn't have to be on the contract. Now you can mark through it on the contract if you want, and I'm fine initialing that because I have this compensation agreement, which is a legally binding document, says you're going to pay me.
And any
Put on the
way
con-
to
I put on
kind
the
of like,
contract.
and any way
Right.
to, I know in the paperless pipeline, we do have a checklist on the left-hand side. Is there any way to now have like a checklist of everything that's needed for the contracts and for paperless pipeline? Like
It's
a
all on-
checklist?
It's on
For-
paperless pipeline. Everything on paperless pipeline is needed except for, so we also have things on there like short sale addendum and lead-based paint addendum that doesn't always apply. In fact, short sales 1 out of 1,000. And lead-based paints 1 out of 5 or 10, right? So that's how fast this area has grown, that 1 out of 10 houses is old. But those are over there and we get rid of them. That's why we have your MLS page. That's why we want your MLS printout. First things that Jeanette was trained to look for is the year built and what type of sale it is. And so when it's a no special sale, it says special sale none or something like that, we know that we can click off, we can get rid of, not click off. We don't mark it done. We remove it from your checklist. You'll notice there's fewer checklist items at the end than there were at the beginning because Jeanette will go in and take them off if they don't apply. All right. And then we check off the ones that are there. So you put your listing agreement in, that gets checked off, et cetera.
And flood now is required.
So now those are required. Like you're going to see condo forms and stuff like that. Like we have HOA forms is another one that we check off sometimes if it doesn't have an HOA, right? You don't have to put an HOA doc if it doesn't have an HOA. So we look, that's the other thing she's trained to look for. She scrolls down the community information. If it says HOA required, no, she gets rid of that one too. Make sense?
Okay.
All right. Anne.
Yes, on the refer form, can we sign or the broker have to sign?
The referral form or this compensation form?
Refer form.
Referral form, the broker signs. You send those into Jeanette. She'll get Chris's signature on.
Okay.
All right. I have seen people sign them, and it's like everything else. It's only a problem if it's a problem. But if anybody ever says, "Oh, your broker didn't even really sign this," well, guess what? It says broker signature on that. Most forms you can sign. I still have people sending me listing agreements and stuff like that for Carissa's signatures and all that stuff. And typically, if they're in a signature program already, we take care of it. But don't send us your listing. You don't have to have. Carissa doesn't need to sign your listing agreements. You guys can sign them.
The other agent from Texas sent to me, so on a doc loop, DocuSign.
For you to sign, if they send, I don't know what Texas law is. I don't know what laws are other places, and we aren't responsible for laws in other places. People always ask me, can I pay my friend in Colombia a referral? Or can I pay them directly or whatever? I say, whatever their law is there, if whatever you tell us their law is, that's what we'll do. That is perfectly legal for us to do. We do not know the laws there. We're not supposed to. If you ask us to pay a referral to somebody in another country, we can do that. A lot of countries, you can just pay the agent directly. So there you go. But I know that's not what you're talking about. But even in Texas, I don't know in Texas if agents can sign or brokers have to sign. Maybe that's why they send it to you because they don't know.
So I have to ask them to send another one for you to sign because they asked me.
Or just take a PDF of it and send it in or whatever, and we'll get it signed. You can send us PDFs for that. It doesn't have to be in a signature program.
Oh, okay.
All right, she'll get it done. We have our own signature stuff. Just send it in. Tammy.
So this is, I didn't realize. So when you refer I'm sending somebody to another agent for a referral fee. So you guys have to sign that form?
Carissa should sign the form, yes.
Okay. And then on the contract, I will just put usually seller or seller's broker will compensate FRI for 3% of the price. So then when I send that over, yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, I like that. That's better.
So I already sent the referral fee with me signing it. Should I re-sign it or just leave that alone? And if they say something,
Was it here in Florida?
yeah,
It's only a problem if it's a problem, Tammy. Like if it's only a problem if things go sideways, you know?
Okay.
So do you know the other agent?
no, but she's like, send me over a referral form. So I think I've never had Carissa sign them. I've never had a problem, but so this is, I
Yeah.
will start having her sign them.
Like, I mean, like,
I mean, I can send it to Carissa to sign and then just send it another one over to her.
yeah, this is one
Won't
of the
you
few.
just upload those on the paperless pipeline and then have it signed?
No, send it to Jeanette.
Jeanette,
Well,
okay.
see, it just says broker. It doesn't say broker's representative, anything else. What I do like is for you guys to do is put broker A. So you're sending it. So you're broker A in this case. You would say Tammy Pipkin, Florida Realty Investments, or vice versa. It's really
Right.
just asking for the broker.
So would we upload that in
Realty
paperless
Investments.
pipeline? Do we upload that in paperless pipeline and then she gets Carissa to sign it or
No,
just send it
to
as an
her.
email?
And once you get it all signed, then you open a new thing in paperless pipeline. You'll go to paperless pipeline, add a transaction,
Yeah.
and they have the type here, and you do sales referral. Sorry, can you guys see that? You can't see that. I'm sorry. Let me share this tab instead. All right, so I just did it right here. Come down here. and do
Okay.
sales referral, okay. And so that when I start a sales referral, and I'm not going to because it's a lot of I don't want to fill out all this stuff. But the next page will have a checklist for sales referral, which is pretty much just a referral form. And if you get the closing statement and stuff like that, that's on the checklist as well. But as long as we get a check from, you have to put the information in here. You know, I sent it to Caldwell Banker in Tallahassee, Florida, and they send us, if we get a check from them and we see that, then it's fine. And you know, you'll
Okay,
put,
let me ask you this.
you'll
So
put,
she's,
this is where I want you to
I'm
put.
ref-
I want you to put your expected. There's commission summary. This is where I want you to put the expected commission too, so we know it's right. Okay.
so she sounds like she's paying me a referral fee to take over these people that are leasing. And the people that are leasing are paying me $500. So and the agent's paying me $1,000. So do I need to put that on my buyer broker agreement for $1,500 or just $500 and then get the referral fee from the agent?
1,500.
Okay.
You cannot make more money than what's on that form, no matter what sources they come from. So you can modify. You guys know about the modification to buyer brokerage agreement.
So see, to me, it seems like two different things. It seems like if you're referring somebody, you're getting a referral fee. I don't know.
Tammy,
Because if you're referring if you're referring somebody, you would really never be compensated usually by a buyer, you know, because you're referring that buyer and you're, so in order to be,
all the time.
Pardon?
People get paid by the buyer or by the tenant for leasing all the time.
right, but I'm thinking of a sale now. Like
Okay,
if
is the referral for a sale?
No, it's for a lease.
Okay. I know you don't, doesn't sound fair to me, but that's what it is.
Okay, well, I have no problem with that.
Well, that's what it's supposed. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. Any form, just like if you put 3% on the form. There's a couple of things here that I want to get into. If you put 3% on the form and the seller will only pay you 2% no matter what, and your buyer wants to pay you 1%, all of that counts. All of that counts toward the 3%. If you go to a new builder and you have 3% on your form, you're going to take me to a new builder, and you get 3%, and the builder says, "Hey, we're doing $5,000 bonus." It wasn't the same as a sale. It's a completely different thing at bonus. And maybe, Tammy, maybe it's even because it's your third deal of the year, and I'm not even responsible for it. It's your third DR Horton deal of the year, and they're giving you a $5,000 bonus. It has nothing to do with me. I still have to sign for you to get that on my deal. If they find some way to pay you that outside of that, it still has to go through the brokerage, then it wouldn't be on the buyer. You know what I mean? That it wouldn't be part of that deal.
I can't hear you. I'm not sure.
I don't know. Can everybody else hear me? Okay.
I can.
It's you, Carolina.
No.
Everybody can hear me.
Oh boy.
I don't know why I'm still
Thanks.
talking because you can't hear me. but everybody else can.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Carolina, can you hear anybody
I
else?
can now. I can now.
Okay.
Maybe it's my service. Oh boy.
Okay. So if they pay you, if you get them to pay you like, hey, give me that in December as an end of year bonus, then maybe a buyer doesn't have to sign for it. You know what I mean? But if it was on my deal, because I'm your third DR Horton customer, which is, doesn't mean anything to me. I didn't do anything to earn that. But they're going to give you $5,000, then maybe they can find some other way to do that. I don't know. But otherwise, I have to sign to let you make another $5,000 off my deal. And I would. I mean, a reasonable buyer was going to sign that because it wasn't because of me.
Yeah.
Okay. But any money you make off of that buyer or tenant in this case, they have to have agreed to it. I don't like it. It's just the way it is now. Carolina.
I recently signed an agreement with a renter, and I did the compensation agreement. I did the buyer broker agreement, right to sell, but on that form, it also has the options, also has the leasing, but it has a compensation. So what I did, I don't know if this is correct or not, the seller's agent is offering me 15% of that listing, right? If I lease it, right? But I always charge 50% of the lease. But on the form, it says anything that's given from the seller's agent is deducted. So I did, instead of 50%, 65%, 15 from the agent and 50% from the buyer that I'm renting the home. Can I do that?
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, and you can always take less. You can't take more. Your form can say
Okay.
whatever you want. You
Okay,
can't get
cool.
more than that. You can always agree to take less, but you can't
Okay,
take more.
cool.
This is some misguided way to disclose what you're making off of each client. They have to agree to the commission, etc. And obviously they're agreeing to a maximum amount, and you can't leave it. The first thing they told us when they did is you can't leave it blank, say, to be determined, whatever, or put whatever the seller wants to pay or anything like that. You have to make it a set amount. Yeah, Tammy.
So is that the right form to use? Is a referral form for sending a buyer to an agent to finish up the lease? Like I did the application. Is that the right form we would use? Is the referral
Yeah.
form?
If you're
Not a
referring it to them
compensation?
to finish it off and it says what they're going to pay you. Yeah.
Okay.
I just got off of the referral form and got to the buyer brokerage agreement. So yeah, so the buyer brokerage agreement, I'm going to show you guys the new where they changed it. I got to find where they put it. F here. Acknowledging that property owners may have audio recording and or video surveillance equipment on a property to be viewed. Consumer will exercise caution while viewing such properties. They felt a need to revise this whole form January of 26 to put that in there. That's all they changed on the buyer brokerage agreement, is to add that. So somebody must have had some kind of issue with nobody told me there was cameras in there, and whatever. Who knows what they said or did on camera. But there you go. So that's the buyer brokerage agreement. So this form where they put the compensation, it cannot be less than, I'm sorry, it cannot be more than whatever you put here. And typically you guys are going to put 3 here, right? So actually it's best to put 3 plus whatever your fee is here. All right. There you go. But a lot of people will do, and Tammy, you mentioned this. Look, if I'm going to go around and show you, I'm going to do that. Hold on a second real quick. If I'm going to go around and show you properties to lease, I want at least $500, right? So when you did that, or blank percent of blank month's rent, when you did that, you can't control this typically with tenant, how much you make here. A lot of agents will pay a certain thing. So you let the tenant know, look, if I'm going to go around, find you the best deal and negotiate all this stuff for you, I'm making at least $500 for my time. you know, a lot of times the lease fee is only $300, and you go back to them and say they're paying 300 of it. Good news, they're paying 300 of it, right? I would not. This is the kind of situation where I'd say that's what I'm going to charge you guys is $500, and then come back to them with good news. They're paying 400, or you come back to them and say, yeah, I want that $500. They're offering me, just so you know, this was, I know you guys know what I went through to get you this. I've been looking for a long time, and we looked at a lot of places. They're offering me 500, and also on top of that, so would you guys mind modifying this to 1,000 or 10,000?
Yeah, they're offering me 1,000. I told them I charge 500. I've already showed them houses, and they've changed their mind to rent because they can't find anything. So I told them I would, and I wasn't going to charge them for that. But when they wanted to rent, I said, well, I do charge $500 for rental. And they're like, oh, no problem. And now this agent, which I was shocked, they pay $1,000. So I was wanting the 500 plus 1,000, but so I was going to go back and have them sign.
You can't do that. That's exactly what I just said.
You have to modify it. Yeah, you have to modify the listing agreement.
Oh, because I did the commission and I added all that stuff. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and what you did was fine. So she has to go back now and say, if you want all 15, say, look, I know it's 500. I asked you guys for, but there's going to be, they're offering me 1,000 also. Or you can say, you know what, guys, I mean, this is giving away $500, but you can, if this were a different circumstance, I think you'll sign that form fine, Tammy, because you did put in a lot of work showing them houses and they changed their mind. But if you guys ever get that situation and somebody offers you more than what you had with them and you want to cut them a break because maybe they'll be your buyer next year this time, right? Then you say, oh, got great news. You know, guys don't owe me the 500, but you're going to sign for them to pay me 1,000. And they'll be like, he
did ask me about he asked me about tipping me, and I said I can't take any money. If you whatever you want to do, send it to my office. But because when the deals didn't work out, but so on that referral form, because it's not really my concern because I have a relationship and I sold their house and they were going to buy from me this time. But on that referral form, when you're dealing with another real estate agent in 12 months, I mean, they may break their lease if they find something with me. But in 12 months, how do you stop that agent from taking your business away from your clients that lease that house from them? But on that referral form, it says something like indefinitely, but it was kind of an awkward thing to check. If you read the referral, how long does this referral last? Or I can't remember what it says, but I didn't check it because I really needed to check the other one. But it was
no, you do a one-time referral for you can write that at the bottom. You can write that in additional terms too in a referral form. You can do this as a one-time referral for rental of 123 Oak Street and be done with it. But you're not referring. You can also refer people to someone. You could refer it to me, and I do a crappy job, and you want to work with them some more or whatever, or you refer them to me for for something in another part of Florida. And then when they want to do their business in Orlando, you can refer somebody still work.
No, I realize that, but I'm just wondering how you would prevent an agent from coming in and, if you didn't stay in touch with the people and they said, oh, I can sell you a house, and take them out looking at houses when they're, when their lease is up.
You wouldn't be paid for that. If you,
no, I know.
You only had a one time and
I know I wouldn't.
Yeah. But that's, if it's another part of the state or something anyway, then you're not referring people, in your next zip code over. So, any other questions on the forms? Awesome. Well, yes, Carolina.
I don't have questions on the forms, but I do have a question on a listing that that I don't know if this is the correct term, but we spoke back in October in one of the meetings, and I made a recommendation to a seller to take the home off the market. So we did a temporarily off the market. And so he contacted me. He's like, he really wants to get it sold. It's been 60 days. And so today I'm going to relist it. So the question that I have regarding that is, I do a new listing, correct?
No, if you took it temporarily off market, you should have terminated the listing.
Oh, so that's what I did.
No, it should have been,
Oh.
you have to cancel the listing and wait 60 days to get rid of the days on market.
Oh my gosh.
In
So
fact,
that,
if you try to relist it and it gives it another number, they will give you a $500 fine tomorrow, probably.
oh my gosh. So what do I do? Because I told him,
Well, you just put it back on the market. But it's good. The days on market are still going to be high.
oh my gosh. So I made a mistake on that and another listing. Oh my gosh. So I have to not do temporarily off the market. It doesn't give
You have
you
to
the,
cancel. You have to cancel the listing.
it doesn't say that on the listing.
What do you mean?
It doesn't say, can I call the MLS and tell them that I made a mistake or no?
You can. You can try.
Okay, but what about on the options when you add and edit, it doesn't give you the option of canceling that listing.
I'm sure it does.
Mm,
You
I
can
could've
cancel any listing you want.
I'll double check it and I'm calling them because
Okay.
that
Well,
one's
you can tell them that wasn't an option for you or something maybe, but I don't know. But they're
okay.
going to say, did you get a modification listing agreement signed that says canceled? And you're going to say no. And they're
I
gonna-
did.
You said it said canceled?
Yeah, I think I put, I'm almost sure. I'll look it up.
If you
I'll
put,
look
if
it
it
up, but
says
I'm
canceled,
almost-
then send that to them and say, look, I made a mistake. Can you guys help me somehow?
Okay, I'm almost sure I did.
Okay. And you say, I clicked the wrong button, but it'll say temporarily off market what date, but it also says canceled what date. So, and you mark it that day. Okay.
Okay, that's
So
oh
maybe if your
gosh.
form is right and it says canceled, then that's wonderful. Then you should be okay calling them and saying, like, look, I clicked the wrong button.
Okay, I'll have to look it up what I did with him. Okay, perfect.
All right.
I don't know. I think I said temporarily off the market. I'll look it up, but I could have sworn.
If you did that, then your days on market aren't going to, you're just, well, the good news is you just a couple of clicks and you're back on the market. You don't have to relist it. The bad news is your days on market are going to be.
Oh my gosh. So that's the information that I did not get clarification.
Cancel it for
Okay.
60 days. Yep. It has to be canceled for 60 days to go back on the market.
Canceled. Okay. Okay.
But no, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Have you guys ever helped somebody make an offer on a property without looking at the history? I mean, you look at the history and you see it's been on the market all these days, or it was under. I mean, I look at that every time I'm helping a buyer. I look at the days on the market and say, look, it's been under contract 3 times, and every time it was under 10 days on contract. Obviously, there's something with the inspection, or it keeps going to 28 days under contract and canceling. It's obviously the appraisal, right? Or something, most likely. It's not obvious, but most likely, right? That's what happens. If it happens more than once, some people just change their mind after put something on there. They didn't even get the inspection, and so you call the listing agent and say, hey, I mean, you guys get this all the time, right? I see your property's been under contract twice. What happened? Right? Don't you ask those questions as a buyer's agent? And don't you expect those questions as a listing agent? Like, how are we going to explain this? It keeps getting canceled during inspection. So, and my seller won't negotiate a penny, So, so what do? You tell the next person, look, it's got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they're not going to negotiate a penny. So make sure your offer includes anything you might want to ask for. Right. So, I mean, it's just about having conversations and stuff like that. But there's no way I would make an offer on if I were buying a house for myself without looking at the history of the property. And they're going to say, oh, it was on the market for 8 months and didn't sell. It went under contract 3 times, or it never got under contract, or whatever. Something's wrong with this house, or nothing's wrong with the house. It's been the market. It's been bad. So I wouldn't fret too much about days on the market. I don't think it's as big of a deal as you guys do in this market, where back, in 2021, if it were on the market for 8 months, there'd be something wrong with it. But right now, that's called a listing. Not 8 months, but typical, 3-4 months. All right, Juan.
What about if a
go
seller
ahead,
doesn't get back to you when you've been trying to reach them for months and they don't get back to you and the listing expires in a few days? Leave it alone, let it expire, take your sign and move on.
That's all you can do if they're not responding.
Okay.
You can't extend it.
Okay.
So, I mean, keep trying. I would try like heck to get a hold of them, assuming that this thing is reasonably priced. If it's already a headache that you want to walk away from anyway. I mean, if I gave you a full price offer tomorrow, would they respond? No.
Yes.
Well, then they're not responding to you about extending the listing, but they would respond.
Not about extending the listing, just about talking about the listing because it's overpriced at Montverde. Same listing.
That same listing. I know
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I feel like I live there. I know that.
And she's a friend of mine, but not anymore, apparently.
That
Okay.
happens sometimes. Well, I know you've tried on that. We all know you've tried on that. You've tried to rent it. You've tried everything. Juan,
Hey guys, I wanted to see if you guys have experienced this, if it's normal, because I never heard about it. In a closing, when you have a title company and they're doing all the paperwork, they're about to close, and then the seller, the buyer is the one in charge of choosing the title company and paying for the title insurance. And then when the seller gets the HUD, the settlement fee on the seller side is like $1,500, which is like 3 times as much as what they were expecting because they didn't choose the title company. The real estate agent, very smart, I assume if this is normal, but she hired another title company to do the settlement, which charged half as much, but there's only one title company that did the whole work, and then the other title company is only going to provide services for settlement fees. Have you guys ever experienced that or no?
I've never seen that. I've always assumed it could happen, but I would absolutely, the seller could not close this deal based on that, in my opinion. That is not, if they're paying more than the other side, then that's not right. The buyer did that knowing that the buyer might have some kind of ownership in that title company. The buyer did something, but that is definitely underhanded. And I think that the seller could probably walk based on that or threaten to walk based on that.
Well,
So,
the seller,
so when you say 3 times, is it, I mean, $1,700?
no, I don't know how much the buyer's settlement fee is, but I know that the seller's settlement fee was expected to be a few $100s because it's just like piggybacking on the main fee, which is the buyers. They're the one that chose the title company.
Yeah.
But it was about $1,500. So the agent called another title company and hired them for settlement fees that is charging $750. It's still, a little bit more than they were expecting, but half as much as what the original title company is doing. I just didn't know you could have 2 title companies at the same time.
It's shenanigans. I do not like when buyers pay the buyers select and pay. I don't trust that. Well, why would somebody want to pay extra settlement fees? It is
That sounds
obviously
like
up to
a
something.
wholesale deal.
What's
No,
that?
it's not a wholesale. It's a regular sale, and the buyer's section of the settlement fee in the HUD was that much high that the real estate agent said, "Hey, this is just too much." The real estate agent representing the seller, and they went ahead and they are only hiring another title company to deal with the settlement fees for the seller's portion of it.
The seller's portion, or the buyer's portion?
The seller's portion.
Or who are you representing?
No, this is my aunt. It's just a scenario that I've never seen happen before.
Oh,
And
okay.
she lives down in Miami. And
Oh,
I was just
Miami.
curious
Well,
to see if
that's
you guys
common in
deal with
Miami.
it.
That's so in Miami, the buyer usually chooses. That's typical. In a lot of the country, the buyer chooses the title company and pays the fees.
Yeah, Miami rates are insane for a title.
Yeah, but have you ever seen 2 title companies, one representing everything, doing the title insurance and everything, and then a second one doing only settlement fees for one of the parties?
I have.
Okay, so it's not that common then, because I've never seen it.
I've never seen it. I don't know if Chad has, but I've never seen it.
Okay.
Any other questions before we go? All right. Yes, Carolina.
Does anyone know how interest rates are? Have they gone down? Any good updates on the market conditions?
Where were you at the beginning of this thing?
I was late. I was
Okay,
coming.
Let me show you. We went over this at the beginning. This is.
I'm sorry.
This is
Okay.
yesterday. They're all down in the 5s. They're all going down, down, down.
Okay. Let me take a snapshot of this. Okay,
You
perfect.
can, but you could. I get this every day. from Paul, who comes in here once in a while.
Okay, so 5.6.
They're all under 6 except for the 30-year jumbo, but which is the first time this has happened in a long time. They're going down.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
All right, no problem.
Thanks.
All right, guys. All right, thank you everybody for coming. Great input from you guys. I appreciate it. We will see you next week. Have something exciting for you next week. Bye, everybody.